What is going on, Savages? So we are still working on this whole Ravencoin restricted asset scenario. I've put a little bit of brain power into it today. I didn't put as much as I wanted to. I've got some things in the works. It's a little complicated, and I'm hoping that we can walk through the steps that Jero's one of the developers for. I think he's one of the Ravencoin developers, or at least he's really into the project. He put together a pretty good guide on restricted assets and the use. Like, I don't know if he did a use case. It wasn't really a use case, but it was just how to use restricted assets. So we are going to look at that. I've got a little scenario coming up. You can kind of see it. It will kind of flash on the screen at the beginning of the stream as well. Yeah, let's get into it. Let's see what we can come up with. All right, so I wanted to kind of build a like a presentation so that we can kind of walk through and logically step through the process. And this is what I've come up with so far. I know Serpent is in here, so he's probably pretty happy to see this. This is just a walkthrough of basically so I could document the scenario and how it would work in the real world, right? So this is just the first screen here. Let me see if I can get this thing to advance. All right, so the scenario is SerpentXSF, I'll never be able to say that, SerpentX Special Forces owns an automotive repair shop that services exotic, rare, or customized automobiles such as the Subaru WRX STI S209. And Subaru, hypothetically anyway, Subaru tracks their WRX STI S209s in the USA that are sold in the USA using the Subaru USA main asset on the Ravencoin network. They do this to track ownership, and these are going to be key things right here, what we are trying to track, or what we're trying to document and tag with restricted assets and tags. So they do this to track ownership, maintenance, records, VIP, service center access, and extended warranties. Those are just some of the things that you could come up with. I'm sure that there are a ton more. I didn't want to create too many because each one of these is probably going to play into our little scenario in one way or the other. Again, for the guys that are just checking this out and thinking this is a mining channel, but this is really deep into the inner workings of Ravencoin and how Ravencoin uses the assets at the protocol layer to actually tokenize real world assets. Okay, so we're going through a pretty in-depth scenario and design of something that could be done on the Ravencoin network. So yes, this is a mining channel, but we are going really hard on Ravencoin right now. So Subaru USA, the asset, creates a sub-asset called WRX STI S209. And then underneath of that asset, the way I like to think about it anyway, underneath of that asset, there's another sub-asset for each S209, like S001, 002. I would assume that there would be a VIN number. I think that a sub-asset has a really limited number of characters. I think it's 6. And I believe that it's only 6 characters. So you couldn't put like a VIN number. So what you would have to do is you would have to attach maybe a picture of the VIN number or a picture of the car and the VIN number and then attach that using IPFS, the interplanetary file system, to each of those sub assets that are issued for each car, right? Or each automobile. I believe that that's the way that you would have to do that, because you couldn't put the VIN number because there's only 6 characters, I believe. That's what I ran into right away. So anyway, so that is where we're at so far. Let's see what's next. And this is as far as I got. So we'll focus on the asset named S001, which I would assume that we could say that, let's think of someone in the community that might want to own that car. So I would say maybe Brandon Coin. We could do Brandon Coin. We could do, because it's not going to be Serpent, because see, Serpent is the automotive service center. So we need someone else to actually own the car, right? And then that way we can get things, assets moving around and tags and stuff based on our little scenario here. So I was thinking maybe Brandon Coin. All this is clearly going to be on testnet right now, because you wouldn't want to do this in real life, because this is to create an asset, a restricted asset, and tags and everything. It costs like 3,000 Raven. So from beginning to end, and I don't believe that that's even including the main assets or anything like that. So you know, we're doing all this on testnet. This is not any real-time stuff here. All right, so let's check out, let me get out of here. I think this is the very last page. Yeah. So what we need to do, this is what I've got created so far on the wallet side. Okay, so this is my testnet wallet. Okay, it does have some SavageMine stuff in here, but you can see where I was pretending that this was the Subaru USA asset. This is the main asset, the admin asset. Anytime you see this A in front of it, that is the admin asset. And then you can see where I created a sub asset here called WRX STI S209. And then I created 3 for each individual car. So we're going to say that Brandon Coin owns the S209 S001. Maybe we'll throw Red Panda S002 or something. But yeah, we'll figure something out with this. But first, we needed to also get SerpentX Special Forces his own address too, because you know, obviously all this is done on the Ravencoin network. Maybe not obviously, but it is all done on the Ravencoin network. So we have to, each entity has to have a Ravencoin address. So what I did for the effort of the scenario here, I couldn't have two. I mean, I could if I used virtualization, but quickly I could not have 2 Ravencoin wallets up at the same time, because the way that it works with the daemon and all that. Okay, so yeah, you can't have 2 running at the same time. And so what I did, I went over here to Mango Farms and Mango Farm assets, mangofarmassets.com, and created a, hey, what's up, Shuby, Red Panda, Mining Chamber, Bazrul, Chancoin, Ozzy, Kryptonite, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. I know this is a little bit out of the realm of what I'm normally covering, but I thought that this was pretty interesting. So that's why we are on it. All right, so I created this wallet on the testnet Mango Farm. You can see that up here. And this is on the Ravencoin network. I sent some Raven to it. Plus it's got a faucet capability here. So if you just click down here, if you go here and create one on testnet, it'll come up with this testnet faucet. And you can just click that and it'll generate a 2,000 Raven that'll eventually show up in your wallet. So so that's kind of cool. So you can easily get some Raven to play around with on the testnet. Okay. So this is going to be Serpent's Ravencoin address, and I had to document everything as I went through it, because you can't really, once you're in here, you can't really see. From what I could tell, I'm not really familiar with this interface, but it seems like you can't do a whole lot as far as, you can't even see what your address is. You have to create a new address, or you have to click on new address each time, I guess. I don't know. I would like to be able to see what my address was without, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. There might be a way, but I don't know how to do it. Yeah, see, there's like nothing in here. See, we're going to be sending assets to this too, for Serpent in his car shop here. So we needed to have something in here. But I did document it when I created it. It showed me my address, or actually no. What I did was I came in here and I clicked new address, and that got me. If you click that, it'll send you a new create you a new address. Now I already have one, and I don't know if what I just that shouldn't like erase the old one. It's not going to burn it or anything. So yeah, it's still in there. All right, so we're not going to use that address there that I just created, or the one that I just created. We're not going to use. The one that we need to use is already here, and let me get back into the over here. All right, let's see. We probably need to do like a new slide with just addresses and who's who, I would imagine. So let's get that started here. Let's see. We'll call it references and SerpentXSF. His Ravencoin address is, all right, so that's his testnet Ravencoin address. And he's the owner of the service shop. And let's see here. What else do we need to do? I guess that's it for right now. Hey, what's up, Jay Mayers? Yeah, Raven's looking all right now. I haven't really looked to even XRP is joining the party here. Yeah, Raven's up a little bit today too. Zell's looking pretty good. All right, so here is the walkthrough. This is the tutorial for from Jeros. And I'm just going to kind of go through it because I need to read it more than once to kind of understand it. But he says that this guide will walk you through the process, and this is let me actually post this over here in chat so you guys can have it. It will walk you through the process of setting up a Ravencoin wallet and using it to create a restricted asset. Now, we already have wallets created. I have plenty of videos on that kind of stuff, so I'm going to skip over the wallet creation part and just get right into the restricted asset part. But I did highlight this because this is important to understand. Restricted assets work in tandem with tags, also known as qualifier assets. So I think what he means is the restricted assets are also known as qualifier assets. I think this was a little confusing because I don't know if he's talking about tags but it sounds like to me restricted assets are qualifier assets. I believe that that's the way it works. There are assets that you use to tag. These are assets that you use to tag addresses. So these restricted assets are used to tag other Ravencoin addresses. Tagged addresses are allowed to receive and send a restricted asset tied to the tag. All right. To use restricted assets with tags, you will need to issue a qualifier asset, a main asset, and I think that if you were to think about this in terms of the order that you need, I think you need a main asset first. It might not matter, but it seems like that's the logical method. But we're going to look at that, so we'll see how it works. Restricted assets with tags, you will need to issue a qualifier asset, a main asset, and a restricted asset. All right, the total cost to make, this is pretty in depth. You know, the old way, I just glanced over and saw Serpent's comment here. The old way of just creating, like, whenever you clicked up here for creating assets, initially there was just one. And then I believe they added sub assets, unique assets, and that's it. So I think for a while you only had these three. And you might have only had, you know what? I think at one time you only had main and unique, I think. And then they've added, I might have the order messed up. But anyway, it used to just be three, right, for the longest time. And then now that they have this last soft fork, all these others are added. Messaging channel, qualifier, sub-qualifier, and restricted. So Yeah, it used to be super easy. You just create an asset, and boom, you were off and running. But with the restricted assets, it gets a little bit complicated and pretty in-depth. So that's why I wanted to kind of walk through this, and so that I can better understand how this is going to be used. So it says here, the total cost to make a working restricted asset with tags costs about 3,000 Raven plus some minor fees, 1,000 for the qualifier asset, 500 for the main asset, and 1,500 for a restricted asset. Tagging an address costs 0.1 Raven per tag. These coins are burned and will be removed from the available supply forever. So by issuing assets, you make the rest of the available Raven a tiny bit more scarce, right? Okay, so it takes a whole lot of burning in order to really affect the overall supply of Raven, but it is a fact that it does decrease the number of available Raven a little bit at a time. Now, I do want to kind of divert a little bit here, and I want to talk about this a little bit because I think, and I've brought this up a bunch of times, I brought it up to people doing podcasts with like Tron. I've asked Tron Black from Ravencoin, the primary dev or the main dev, and there's, in my mind, I think about these fees for creating assets, right? And I do see them as a suppression, because this, even though we're talking on the testnet, this is the actual cost on the real Ravencoin network as well. This is the cost, right? So I really see it as an unfortunate side effect of the capabilities of the network with the cost of creating an asset. Now, the main goal for Ravencoin is to be a platform for security token offerings, especially with restricted assets, and just tokenizing assets or tokenizing real world assets in general, right? 500 Raven for a main asset. So that means that if you're a business, right, and you want to start tracking things, let's just say it's Subaru, like in our example. So whenever I created the Subaru asset, let me go back to transactions here. So right here I created the Subaru asset right here, Subaru USA, right? And you can see right here that it burned 500. See, this is a burn address right here. So it burned 500. Now, for our Subaru, to the company Subaru, to burn 500 Raven and we're going to talk in terms of USD value, not a big deal, right? Especially whenever the price of Raven is 0.035, right? USD. All right, not a big deal at all. That's 15 bucks, 16 bucks, whatever. But would they do it if Raven was $1? Would they do it if Raven was $10? Are you really going to pay $5,000 USD value to create a token, a main asset on the Ravencoin network? So who is that going to be for? It's going to be for huge, financial institutions, is the way I would look at it, that would spend $5,000 to create an asset. So what I'm getting at is, if you can look at the economics of it, to me, in my little simple mind, I see it as a price suppression aspect, an unfortunate side effect of the capabilities of the network. And I've had people try to explain to me how it's not really like that, but I still cannot get past the point of the relationship with USD and actually looking at it and saying, okay, like, I'll give you a real quick, simple example. I created that Brandon coin asset. I talked about it last night a little bit. I created it so that he didn't lose it, so that I would have it, so that I could send it to him, right? Because I don't think at the time he wasn't involved in it that much as far as Ravencoin goes. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to register this, or I'm going to get this asset for him and eventually transfer it to him. I've been trying for a year to get it to him, but anyway, that's a whole nother story. But whenever I got that asset, I think I want to say that it was 500 actual Raven, and I think that at the time Raven was probably, I think it was 4 or 5 cents. It might have been 5, because it was. Remember whenever it went up to like 8 cents or something, and then it was coming down. It was during that time, I believe, that I created that asset for him. So it was USD value. It was $25 roughly, $22 to $25 to create that asset. And that's kind of like just a donation, right? And even that is a little bit of money, right? I mean, for us, for me, that's a little bit of money, right? So I don't know how all this is going to work out in the overall scheme, and as Ravencoin, if Ravencoin gets really expensive, and how that's going to affect the assets, right? I just don't know. I think about it. I don't do a lot of really deep thinking on it, like meditating on it or anything, but I do think about this from time to time, and it has always kind of bugged me that it's like that it's built into the protocol like that. I know it has to be, but I'm just saying, the cost now, according to the devs, they could at some point change the, like, let's say that Raven did go to $1, and then it kind of pushes out the smaller token, the smaller companies that want to use the network to manage, real world assets tokenized on the network. It would push them out. If you were, let's just look at the Subaru example. So if it was, I think a unique, let's see, hang on. So I did a main asset, then I did a sub asset, was 100. The sub asset was the car, and then each one is 5 Raven for each unique asset. So in the case, you would have, in the case of the Subaru USA or WRX STI, you would have 209 of them, I think, if I'm not mistaken there. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Serpent. I believe you would have 209 total, right? And at 5 Raven each, Raven would have to be pretty expensive for that to be too much for Subaru to pay, right? So even if it was $1, it would be $5. If it was $10, it would be $50 to create a unique. So it would be 50 times 209 total for all the unique assets. And that's kind of a bad example because we're talking about Subaru, a huge company, billion-dollar company or whatever. So that's a bad example. But if you want mass adoption and you want smaller companies, mom and pop shops to use Ravencoin, and I would assume that they do because that's part of the adoption, then you're not going to see. I'll take my example, my use case example with GPU hosting. You're not going to see me pay $50 for a unique asset for one GPU. Think about that. If you had a 6 GPU rig and you had it set up on the Ravencoin network, like tokenized, like we're talking about, then and you had different owners, and each GPU had its own owner, and you were hosting it. I'm pointing to this rig over here. So if each GPU had a different owner, and you had issued that asset or that token to that asset or to that person, and I needed to register another one, right, to add to the rig for another person. If Raven was $1, then that would cost me, or let's say that Raven was $10, then it would cost me $50 just to issue that token, or just to have that token created and then issue that token to the owner of the GPU. So that is a huge, not going to happen, right? Not for a small company, So anyway, I don't know. I know I'm just completely off track and ranting, but I felt like I needed to say it again for some reason. So it's always kind of bugged me. I don't know the solution, but it does. I do think about it, right? I'm hoping that someday someone will explain it to me in a way that the light bulb goes off and I'm like, oh, now I get it, right? But the way I'm looking at it right now, I don't see how I could be convinced that in some way the cost of assets, the cost of asset creation is suppressing the price. I know there are other factors. It's never just one thing, but it seems like that would be the case. I don't know. Anyway, all right. Let's see. It is 9:56, and I'm super tired, and I was going on a rant there, and that was kind of crazy. So let's get back. Let's try to get back on track. Let's see where we're at with our little. This is definitely going to take 2 days at least to get through this. And now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, I'll be able to add to our scenario here and figure out how we're going to issue everything. And hopefully tomorrow we will be able to actually go through it. But here, let's get back to we got a few minutes here. Let's get back to the guide here from Jaros and kind of keep going here. Let's see. This guy assumes that you know how to acquire cryptocurrencies. We're past all that. So all this is just the wallet stuff, right? And right here, he starts with restricted assets. So let's start with a qualifier asset, a tag asset. So it says go to, let's see, how can I do this? It says go to, let me minimize this. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Nope, not that. Back over there. What I need. It's not gonna let me do it. I think there's a shortcut key to get it over there, but I don't know. All right, so go to the Create Assets tab. So we're gonna go here. It says tab, but I guess this would be considered a tab. For asset type, choose qualifier asset, and this costs 1,000 Raven. All right. For name, type a name starting with a # or a hashtag. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm a little bit confused because I think that this needs to be, okay, let me think about this. All right, so you've got the company, which is Subaru. You've got the repair shop, or the service center, which is SerpentX. So one of the things that we wanted to have a qualifier. So a qualifier would be like, actually, you could say that Serpent would be a qualifier because he's going to tag the asset, the sub-asset, the actual car address. He's going to tag that saying that, yes, I did, whatever planned maintenance, right? So you could say the tag might be maintenance update or maintenance is up to date or something like that. So I don't know what the tag is going to be called. That's something that we can work on. So we are going to create a qualifier asset we're going to send this to his address, to Serpent's address, so that he can use it to tag other addresses. Yeah, okay. I think I got this right. I think this is the way that we'll do it. All right, so we're gonna call the qualifier asset. What's a good name? We're gonna say, oh shoot, it's 10 o'clock. We gotta get over there to. We need to get over there to Ravencoin. I'll leave it right here. We will pick it up tomorrow. At 9:30 again. I mean, this is a stream that could go on for numerous hours, and I've done it many times before, and I don't want to keep doing that. So I'm going to cut it right here, and we will be back tomorrow at 9:30. We got to get over to see Brandon Coin. I'm sure he's coming up here soon. Yep, he's live right now. Coronavirus attacks Bitcoin. All right, so we are going to head over there, and looks like we got 20 seconds. So let's head over there and do a Savage raid, and I will see you guys back. I'm going to work on the whole scenario and trying to get it in my head too, how it's going to work or how it could work in this scenario. So me and Serpent talked a little bit today about it. We're going to talk about it probably tomorrow, maybe even tonight, and try to get this scenario to play out the way that I think it can using restricted assets and tags. So that's what we're going to be looking at doing. So let's head over to Brandon Coin, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Do the Savage raid thing whenever you go into his chat, and I'll see you over there. Stay savage, everybody.